So we're going to bring in a little local. So from the San Diego Sheriff's, Lieutenant Jason Vickery, one of the lead people implementing drones in search and rescue and law enforcement. So put your attention to him for about the next 15, 20 minutes.
Morning. About 2 years ago, I was up on the third floor of headquarters and walking by one of the big boss's offices, and he called me in the office and said, "What do you know about drones?" Nothing. And and it literally could have been any other lieutenant walking by his office and got pulled in at the time he was thinking drones, and said, "I want you to put a working group together. I want to see the feasibility. I want to see if the Sheriff's Department is something we want to look into and use." A couple years prior to that, one of our narcotics detectives had actually applied for a COA and didn't tell anybody on the department that he had done that. So at one point, those become public record, and our sheriff was asked, "Hey, you guys are looking at drones?" And he said, "No, we're not." And they said, "Yeah, you are." And this was at the time where the Predator drones were out there, and there was all sorts of concerns about what these drones were going to be used for. And at that point, the sheriff said, "No, we're not doing a drone program. We don't have a drone program. We're not going to do a drone program." So a couple years later, he kind of said, "Let's look into it. Let's see what's out there." One of the reasons I suspect that we weren't so gung-ho about getting into it initially, other than the political nature of it, was we do have a large air unit. We have, I think, 12 helicopters, with about 18 full-time helicopter pilots that fly for the department, all the way ranging from the big firefighting helicopters that the county bought for us. So when you see airdrops going on in the county, at least 2 of those big helicopters are sheriff's helicopters flying with CAL FIRE. And so when we went out and started looking at different agencies, the first thing we looked at was Alameda County up near Berkeley, Ventura County right up the road, Mesa, Colorado. We went out and looked at their programs and saw what they could do. The interesting, when we went out there and started looking at the UAVs that they were using 2 years ago, we saw them with these big $50,000, $70,000 quadcopters that were huge. And I remember specifically the one up in Northern California we looked at, and they're like, "Don't stand too close to it, get away," and what we had been seeing was one of the guys on the working had one of the new DJIs back then 2 years ago. I think it was a Phantom 2. And we said, "Well, that doesn't, the Phantom is $2,000 and that one's $70,000, and what's the point?" And so, they kind of tongue in cheek, and they had a DJI kind of in the back and said, "Well, we kind of use this one too," and so they had bought that big expensive one. And kind of the same thing with Ventura. I know they're flying DJI stuff now too. So, but fast forward to where we're at now, we had to convince the sheriff of how we were going to use these, and say, so we said we want to do a pilot test phase program, and we're going to use them for SWAT missions. We're going to use them for search and rescue, crime scene documentation, deputy involved shootings and homicides. Our bomb arson unit would be able to use them, hazmat, jail escapes, and life-saving and life-threatening situations. One of the things we've stressed is we don't use them for general surveillance. And when we reached out to communities, which was one of the big things that the ACLU wanted us to do, not that we do everything they want, but we take their suggestions and take everything into consideration. And we did put it out to our community advisory groups, which we have out at each of our stations, and took input from the community and said, "Hey," and we explained to them, we're going to be using off-the-shelf Best Buy DJI stuff. We're not looking at Predator. We're not weaponizing them. We're not going to, So, at the end, most of the missions that we fall under and what we do, one of the big things was data retention. Everybody's scared. What are we going to do with all this data we're collecting when we're up there flying? Well, for the Sheriff's Department, what our policy and what we implemented into the policy is that if we don't use what we collect as evidence in a case, or we don't need it for a training purpose, then we just delete it right after the mission. If we do keep it, we don't have a centralized data collection of drone footage. No, it just goes right into the file of whatever case that is. So let's say we have a hostage situation, we have the UAV up assisting the SWAT team. What'll happen with that data, whatever happens there, goes into the case file, and it's evidence. It's exculpatory for the defense. They can request it. We'll give it to them. So it's it's handled like any other kind of evidence. With that said, we've, to date, once we started back and got the blessing and started actually flying missions, we've flown over 50 so far since November. It's more and more. I think we flew 10 last month. We're up to already 5 or 6 this month, and it's a short month. We're getting deployed a lot. When looking into this, initially when we started at 107 was not an option. Right as we were getting ready to, and we were applying for our COA, 107 became an option, but not the best option. Consulting with Ventura and Alameda counties, we all decided that for what we do, 107 just probably wasn't going to work. We needed to go through the COA process. So we have a blanket area COA right now is what we applied for and we got. When we did that, luckily the guys that I put on the working group, since our air unit is so big, I pulled former helicopter pilots in to help create the program, write the policy, apply for the COA, and do all that. That was a great help because they know all the ins and outs and the terminology and all of that. Once we got that blanket area COA and the approval came pretty quick, what happens even with that, we're under certain restrictions, almost the 107 restrictions under that blanket COA. So what we have to do is we apply for and have gotten really quickly emergency COAs for almost all of our operations. So I know they just changed it. Now we can fly at night without applying for the emergency COAs. But when we need to fly in class, we fly in Class B airspace sometime. And so in order to do that, a typical call out for our guys would be, okay, we have a barricaded suspect. He's at this location. Our sergeant of the unit will call the 2 guys that are going to get deployed. They go to the van where we have all of our equipment, and we have a 3rd guy that will call and say, hey, we need you to call on the NOTAM, and we need you to call on the ECOA. So we have it all templated. He'll fill it out, send it to DC. They usually get us back in about a half an hour before our guys even hit the scene. We've already been approved for the mission. So it works out pretty good. We're in the process and have been for 8 or 9 months for what they're calling a jurisdictional COA that will eliminate the need for us to do the emergency COAs. What the holdup in that is that there's only 4 airports in California that have Class B airspace, and we have 2 of them here in San Diego County, Miramar and Lindbergh. So what I was told last was nobody's gotten a jurisdictional COA with Class B airspace yet. So if we do it, we'll be the first. And so it still looks like we're going to get it. They're just dotting all the I's and crossing all the T's before they give it to us. So that's kind of what we deal with. Now, training-wise for our guys, initially when you were flying under COAs before 107, you had to go through ground school. The FAA had come out and look at everything you were doing. It was a much more in-depth process for them for them and how they're holding people accountable. Now they just say you self-certify. You're going to self-certify under your COA. So we had to develop our own training program. So right now what we train our guys is anybody new coming in, even though we don't fly under 107, we will make brand new guys coming into the unit get their 107 certificate and they'll take the test and have to pass it. Once they do that, we have to require them 4 hours of actual flight time and 4 hours of visual observer time, so about 8 total hours. And then they have to be able to complete and show that they know all the airspace in the county, how to file all the correct paperwork. In addition to kind of the more hoops that we jump through with the COA as opposed to 107, every month we have to report back to the FAA all our hours. We have to keep logs on all of our drones. We have to write airworthy certificate letters of each drone. When we applied for our COA, we also had to certify as a public aid. So there's a lot of stuff. So a lot of agencies have called us in California. An interesting thing is, you would think more departments are using these than currently are right now. I think there'll be more. I think a lot of it has to do still with the political nature of it. The bigger agencies that are using them are all sheriff's departments. I wonder, why is it sheriff's departments? Well, the sheriff answers to his voters. The police of chief answers to a mayor, a city council. There's a lot more political structure involved in the police departments than it is with the sheriff. So I think getting everybody on board and buying off and thinking this is a great idea is much harder at a city government with a lot more people with a lot more say. Whereas the sheriff can, he pretty much can make decisions without having to go through all those levels. Again, I would say right now when you're trying to convince agencies or anybody else, why would we need this if we have helicopters? The things that we use them for routinely, a couple times a week right now, our SWAT team is using them every week. And what they're using them for is things that the helicopter can't do. We'll perch them, on back doors of suspects' locations and be able to live time from the command post, be able to set up and remotely view what is being seen by the UAV. So we can have shot callers, captains and lieutenants, sit there and look at in real time what's going on and be able to get that information back to the operators on the ground. That's another thing that we've been working on, and there's nothing out there that I've found or we've been able to find that's just store-bought ready to actually remotely view it on secured servers where you can do it on an app and it just come up on any device. That's been kind of a thing that we've been looking at doing and getting in we had to come up with it on our own basically and develop our own IT people because we have a pretty big IT department. They pretty much got it nailed to the point now where we'll be able to hit an app from anywhere and see what the drone is seeing real time on secured servers that we don't have to worry about. So that's pretty exciting. It's also great because our SWAT operators or anybody on the perimeter position, if you're there for a long period of time or any amount of time, if you have any kind of device and you want to see from an overhead view of what's going on, you can look at your smartphone and see exactly what the UAV is seeing. We've got that we can do that through Wi-Fi or we can do that through the remote server. We've got it to where you can use both depending on where we are. So that's proved really valuable. For our crime scene investigations, we just don't even, now it's standard protocol. Our guys will roll out to deputy-involved shootings and homicide, and it's especially useful to give real-time or better images of what juries want to see. They want to see that actual overall, then narrow it down as you go through the crime scene and things like that. So the detectives love it. The district attorney office loves it. It's been really good. Our next step in moving forward is we need to get into accident reconstruction. I mean, there's so much, and it's just so the department right now we're all doing is an adjunct duty. I'm the Valley Center Station substation commander, so that's my real job every day. Managing that, and then I do the drone program as an adjunct duty. We're at the point now where we're telling the department this needs to be a full-time unit. We need to go full-time. We need to have full-time guys assigned to this, not just to keep up with the technology, but I mean, there's something every day I'm getting a phone call about something or there's some issue. We fly the DJI stuff mainly because it's inexpensive. If it crashes, or if someone beats it with a baseball bat when we fly it through their window, we just fly another one at them. It doesn't matter, Whereas if you got a $50,000 one, you're like, I don't really want to fly this in there. That guy might beat it out of the sky, and so. But we'll we can literally just keep going at them and going at them. SWAT guys love it because, like I said, they'll blow a door open. The entry team will be on the side. We can fly the drone right into the door and clear the room, and then back it off, and they can go in. They've already cleared that door before they go in. They love that aspect of it, so that works out really good. We're waiting for one of the things this past winter we got a lot of rain, so we experienced that issue with the DJI stuff. It just was not. We were. When the boy who drowned up in Rainbow this year, we were out there for 3 days in search and rescue, and the rain proved to be a problem for us. And so we started looking at different platforms, and sure enough, DJI now, the 210, the Matrice 210 allegedly is going to be out soon. So we're just waiting. We need that. The battery lifetime on that is supposed to be better. So when different agencies around the country ask me, hey, what should we do? We're looking at this platform. We're looking at that. I've been to so many trade shows. I've been to talk to so many people. There's so much great stuff out there. But the bottom line is they're producing the stuff so quickly. And so, I'm not saying there isn't better out there, but man, it's hard to beat the price for what, you know, and like I said, it's got to be deputy proof because these guys, hey, what happens if I pinch both things in like that, you know? Boom, you know, there it goes. There's $2,000, you know. So, and when we do that, we have to be careful too because, you know, we do have a couple of FLIR cameras that we use, and we use those a lot because we are flying at night a lot. That's the infrared stuff. It's so that's really good stuff, and those are, you know, when we keep buying more product, you know, we can interchange. And I was just having a conversation with my sergeant yesterday. Make sure when that Matrice 210 comes out, that FLIR that we have now is interchangeable to the Matrice before we go out and buy another FLIR that's obsolete in 6 months. What's cool is when we set out our initial budget for the first year, we asked for, and this is great about being with the Sheriff's Department. We're a big agency, you know, with a $7 billion budget, or $600 million budget. I'm sorry, and $7 billion for the county. I think slight difference. I'm thinking county. Six to $700 million is the budget. Where some of these smaller agencies that come to us, they're really limited as to what they can buy, how they can do it. So we're lucky; we could just go, yeah. So we got an initial budget for just 1 year of $125,000. You can buy a lot of stuff. A lot of DJI stuff for $125,000.
I don't know if your EOD folks use like any kind of ground, remote vehicle.
Yes.
Is there with this pilot? Is there an idea to move for underwater stuff and ground stuff for the other aspects?
Absolutely, and in fact, 3 of our pilots are from our bomb arson unit, and so part of the ongoing training we've done is bring all their equipment out and run interference and see if the drones can fly with their robots and make sure they're not cross. So we have figured out there are some we can't use at the same time, or we can't get too close to each other and that type of thing. But yes, that we've looked at, that for sure for the underwater stuff, because our search and rescue team they have dive teams and things like that we definitely are so we're open to anything and always looking. Yes, sir.
Do you know any cities in the county that have drone departments?
You mean police departments that actually?
Police or fire departments in cities.
I could tell you Chula Vista, it was really close. I don't know if they finally pulled the trigger on it and actually did it. I know Oceanside was looking heavily, Carlsbad was looking. Everybody's come to us, looked at our programs and are pitching it. I haven't followed up to say, hey, where are you guys at with it? I take a lot of phone calls throughout the week, and so as of right now, I know that
Who from Carlsbad, you know?
I don't remember his name, yeah, but I know that they are looking into it and researching it. Yes, sir.
Are you in a position to provide contract service to these cities?
Well, no. What we'll do is the sheriff always will help. The sheriff's department will always assist, even with our helicopter SWAT teams, whatever any cities need, we will assist. When we assist, it's kind of like we've been asked, well, is it okay with their city if we bring the drones in? Well, if you ask for our SWAT team to come into your city to assist your police department, that includes all of our resources, including drones. So that's just what comes with it. If an agency called us and asked, hey, can we use your drone for this? We haven't been asked that yet. I'm not saying we would say no, but number one, it would definitely have to fall under the criteria for which we fly under. We wouldn't. I get asked once a week by the dope guys, hey, can we use it for a flyover of a marijuana field? Can we use it to surveil this guy? Can we do it for that? No, we can't do it for that. That's not what we're doing right now. We're mission oriented. The only surveillance that we would be doing is technically going up over on a high risk entry service of a search warrant to surveil the property before our tactical team hits it, that type of thing. Yes, sir.
Speaking of surveillance, crowd control included in that?
For now, we're in talks, and we know that this is probably gonna be applicable for riots and things like that. We haven't deployed it for that yet. However, that definitely could fall into the life-threatening, life-saving situation when you have riots and things like that. And what we're pretty excited about, like I said, what this will be able to do is we can give live-time feed back to the command post, so the guys making the decisions on where we're deploying our personnel can actually see where the problems or where the threats are live time from the command post. Yes, sir.
And other agencies probably into your building?
No, the sheriff is pretty good about just, it's kind of like with our helicopters. I mean, we're all the time in different jurisdictions assisting. So we do not bill other agencies for our services in the county.
He wants to get reelected.
Well, it's the right thing to do. He's the lead law enforcement officer in the county, so he's technically the whole county is his. So he does what he needs to do.
For the observation stuff, you guys doing any tethered power system at all yet?
No, not yet. One of the things that we've learned, we have a van, and we're building another van, Sprinter van, and inside that van we have a charging station where it's just constantly, so we can go. It took us a month to figure that out because we'd all be ready for our training. We'd be out in the middle of Ramona and nowhere, and after an hour and a half, oh my God, we're done. Like, we don't have any more power. So we just kept buying more and more batteries, more and more aftermarket chargers to speed charge them, and so yes, sir.
There was some big news tucked into your presentation, so maybe you'd like to repeat it for everyone. There's more SWAT operations in San Diego than there are in Chicago.
Yes, yeah. Well, maybe you guys could use a few more in South Chicago.
Since the technology is public, and a suspect could have that technology also, do you guys deploy counter drone technology also?
The counter drone stuff is being pitched to us all the time. It's a matter of, I mean, gosh, we were just looking at a system where it would have cost especially for our jails. We're looking at that type of thing. So, and then you get into what's the law on actually taking these things out of the sky, and you hear it's legal, it's not legal, so we're kind of waiting to that evolve a little bit more and become a little, more agencies. As soon as agencies actually start deploying those and we can look at that, I mean, I don't know that we necessarily want to be the trailblazer in that, and I don't know of any local agencies that are doing that yet. Yes, sir.
When you have a large-scale search and rescue, do you incorporate civilian resources?
No, generally we have such a huge search and rescue team it is mostly volunteer anyway. So, and the search and rescue aspect of it, what I've learned so far is you're right. We even as big as our search and rescue team is, and as many call-outs as we get, it seems like by the time we get out there, the person's been found. But we have it is useful when the helicopter, up on top of Palomar Mountain in the middle of winter. Sometimes our helicopters, it's too dangerous for them to fly up there. So those are perfect opportunities that we'll get up there and put the FLIR on the drone, and you guys know the weather doesn't really isn't a factor. If it goes down, it goes down. Yep.
Are there contracting or internship opportunities with the department for this area?
There are always internships, not specifically directly related to the drone, and anything's possible. We're so new. We're not even a year into it. We're still in technically the pilot phase of the program. So we'd be open to look at anything.
So have you explored contracting out some of this piloting or some of the operating?
I don't think that we get hit quite a bit on people wanting to. What's not out there yet, and what we get pitched a lot of times is, hey, come to our training program, come to do this. But there isn't anything out there that we've found yet that from start to finish for a public law enforcement agency on how to write a COA, to how to fly it, to which one to fly, to how to do a NOTAM, to how to do nothing. We've just, with Ventura and Alameda, we've kind of just figured it out, and agencies kind of get us, we give them the blueprint, but if that makes sense. So we have enough personnel. We have, a couple thousand deputies, so believe me, with all the millennials out there, the new deputies, these guys want to fly these things so bad. I got a list. I can't train these guys fast enough and get them into the unit fast enough. We have so many people interested in it. So, but it's been great. So, anything? Yes, sir.
Have you run into any problems where federally you're legally able to fly, but state-wise you're not? And if you were to encounter that, federally trumps the state laws. But it's not something, it's kind of a gray area, I understand, but is that?
Federally, the FAA just has their guidelines, and that's what it is. And when we fly under our COA, we're covered federally. If you're talking, as far as Fourth Amendment stuff and things like that, we fly under all these things that you're talking about are generally exceptions to search and seizure and that type of thing. So when we are up, we're covered like we would coming on into your house if we needed to for an emergency or something like that. So we're generally covered, like, we make sure of that, so. And one thing real quick, this is the big one, for us and anybody move down the future. Where does the curtilage of a house begin, when you're flying over somebody's house, and when does their property? So if we are flying that where does Fourth Amendment come into play as far as how low you're getting with that. It'd be interesting to see what the courts start ruling on all that stuff. So.
And that will change based on the resolution
It
of the camera, probably.
well, exactly. Ooh, thanks.